I want to talk about what our military is currently up against. So, hopefully, you've seen the news about these two missing U.S. Navy SEALs. Last week, a team of SEALs attempted to board a pirate ship out off the coast of Somalia. And pirate in the sense of this is a ship that's fully devoted, and its crew fully devoted to nefarious activities. They ended up locating a bunch of munitions for rocket and missile material. So just think about how treacherous this situation is for our guys. Our guys are operating at night. They're out in the water, in the ocean, and they're attempting to board a piece of crap Mickey Mouse ship run by a bunch of 12th century throwbacks. Absolutely dangerous situation. And I think that we hear about things like that and we think of it as no big deal. But for a moment, put yourself in the shoes, in the boots of a Navy SEAL that is leaving the ship that he's living on, and under the cover of darkness, going out into the ocean at high seas, shark-infested waters, and he is attempting to board a ship that everybody on is, as to their dying breath will scream Allahu Akbar. And you got to go deal with those freaking dogs. That is such a dangerous mission. And I think that we hear about these things from time to time and we act like it's no big deal what these guys are capable of doing and what they do on a daily basis. And they're doing things, if we hear about it, we're probably hearing about like the 1 or 2% of the things that they're actually doing. And so it's just absolutely remarkable what our men are capable of out there. These guys are just such highly skilled, highly trained warriors, but also something I'll talk about here is they're ethical and they're selfless, and they understand sacrifice to a level that 99.99% of America has no clue of. So while they're scaling up this ship, one of them is knocked down into the water, and just imagine how much weight he is. He's not wearing fins because he's boarding a ship. He's climbing a ladder. And he's got his rifle. He's got his protective armor on. He's got his ammunition. He may have a radio. He's probably got a Camelback with some water in it. This guy could be carrying 30 to 50 pounds. And he hits those waters, and it's pitch black out there. And where do you think he's going? He's going down. There's no doubt about it. And the remarkable and the selfless sacrifice that we see in the story is that one of his fellow SEALs jumped in after him to save his life. And the two of these men have not been seen or heard from since that happened. This is last week. I want to say it's, as of the time of this video, probably 5 or 6 days ago. The absolute crying shame in this whole matter is that our government, our presidential administration, hasn't uttered a word about it. No word for the families, no word for the American people that care about these guys out there. And, how do you think these fellow SEALs feel about this? I hope and pray that there is a good outcome to this, but it doesn't look good, 5 or 6 days into the event. It doesn't look like there's any hope in this situation, and a comment from the administration would be welcomed, to say the least. But I also wanted to comment on what these guys were going after. These guys end up seizing some munitions that can be used for rocket and missile material that's being shot at these ships out in the Red Sea, or potentially maybe it's going to the Gaza Strip somehow. I don't know. We don't know all the inside scoop on that. But You look at the payload that these guys gathered from this dangerous operation, and my mind says, was it even worth it? And I don't think it was. And that's a really hard thing to say, you know, and to the families of these two men that are lost at sea, they definitely want to know that their son or their husband or their uncle or their brother died for a good cause and a good reason. And you look at what these guys captured on this ship, and you go, man, they should have just freaking blown that thing out of the water. We shouldn't even set foot on it. If we're gonna mess with those pieces of freaking human garbage, and we know who they are, that's why we're boarding them. We have enough intelligence to know that these guys are up to no good. Why do we got to put our guys in harm's way and attempt this valiant, courageous effort at such a risk to the loss of valuable, sacred human life? Why do we got to attempt to go into this thing? It's just not worth it. I remember when I was a cop, after California, you know, they had done all these things, decriminalizing so many things, and people would get out of jail after being in for like 6 or 8 hours. And it was like, you know, they're knocking down charges from felonies to misdemeanors just left and right, you know, and a guy that's committed a violent act gets out of prison, you know, 40 times faster than he actually should have. I remember one situation where I had a guy in a house that I was after. He had a warrant for his arrest, and I really wanted to get him because he was selling dope and stuff, and I had it for this guy. I really wanted to catch him, and I knew he was inside this house. He's a dangerous gang member type. And I'm out there with my crew and my sergeant, and we were like formulating a plan to go in there after him. And then I thought about it, and I said, you know, if we catch this guy after risking our lives and looking inside closets where he's hiding, looking under couches and maybe the attic, we're going to take him down to the county jail, and then they're going to let him go in about 6 or 8 hours, and he'll be right back here where we picked him up at. And I said, it's not worth it. It's not worth me and my partners going around and looking in closets where this guy could be hiding with a pistol or worse and pop one of us. And then we get killed, you know? And like, how do you explain that to a family at a funeral of, gosh, you know, your brave husband or brave daughter went in this house after this piece of crap to arrest him, take him to jail. And the payload for that was that he would spend about 8 hours at the county. That is an absolute waste of time, first off. And it's an absolute waste of human life for men to put their lives on the line and go into an extremely dangerous situation so that we can hold up a paper and say, look, we caught this guy, and we're gonna let him go, or look, we seized these dangerous weapons that we knew were on this ship. How about you just freaking blow that ship out of the water? I think the reason all this is going on is because America wants war. Our politicians want war. And for you guys that are in the military, for you guys that are thinking about going in the military, I salute you. I salute your efforts. I salute your courageousness. Your courage, I should say. I salute your dedication. But you got to know, when you do your thing out there on the battlefield, in that theater of operations where your life is on the line, you need to know this. You need to operate with this in the back of your brain all the time. That you're just a number to the politicians. And they don't have your best interest in mind. They could care less if you don't come home. Ever. If you're lost at sea, if you're captured, if you're a prisoner of war, they don't care about what really happens to you. And whatever happens to you, they are going to ultimately use whatever that circumstance is to their political gain and to their financial gain. Because everybody up there is bought and paid for. That goes for a lot of the military leaders as well. The high up ranking guys, they're bought and paid for. And they're all looking for a career. So don't expect somebody to stand up and do the right thing for you. Don't expect someone to push the pause button on an operation and say, hang on a second, this ain't worth it. That's not going to happen. So if you're going into that theater of operations, you want to go join the military, know that. And I'm not saying we don't need a military. We obviously do. We need good, fine men, valiant and courageous and ethical and moral men in our military. But the sad state of affairs is that the people leading the military and the people directing the military at the political level, they are not valiant. They are not courageous. They are not ethical, and they're not moral. And they're the freaking problem. So I think ultimately America wants war out of this whole thing. We just designated the Houthis in Yemen as a terrorist organization, and the Biden administration had recently, I think shortly after Joe Biden was elected, they pulled the terrorist designation from the Houthis because they're trying to be friendly with Iran, you know. Now they've designated them again, and it's like a 30-day wait period before it's actually enacted. And I can guarantee you, once it's enacted, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff about the terrorist Houthis in Yemen. There's a lot of money in that, you know. There's a lot of money in keeping the Red Sea open, obviously, because it's such a shipping lane. I'm just pissed off at the loss of what seems to be at this point the loss of life of these two Navy SEALs, because, man, look at what they're doing out there. They're doing some crazy, awesome stuff. And the man that jumped in there after his friend, I'm just going to say it right now, he better get the Medal of Honor. He performed an act of heroism that should definitely get him the Congressional Medal of Honor. I think it goes without saying, you know, he jumped to an almost certain death to save the life of his friend. Man, that just goes back to what Jesus said. Greater love hath no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friend. All right. That's all I got on this. Yeah, I'm irritated and I'm pissed off about this. I think about those guys out there. I pray for these guys. Be praying for those families. I guess it almost makes me tear up just thinking about the gravity of the situation and just how selfless our guys are in uniform. They are just amazing human beings. Absolutely amazing human beings. So, you know, be in prayer for them. Be in prayer for all of our guys out there, as it just seems like America's marching on to another war so that we can defend democracy in the third world hellholes like Yemen.